The night on planet Verdun was colder than usual. The wind moved across the dark plain, whispering through broken metal towers left from the old war. Commander Ethan Cole sat alone in the small human outpost, staring at the endless sky filled with green storms. He had been stationed here for 3 years. 3 long, silent years. No orders, no visitors, just endless reports to a command that never answered back. The war between humans and the Lunari had ended. Or so they said. But peace never felt real. The machines still hummed. The walls still carried the scars of battle. And deep down, Ethan still felt like a soldier waiting for something that would never come. It was just past midnight when the radar beeped. Ethan frowned and looked at the screen. A small object had entered the planet's atmosphere, fast, hot, and then it crashed. The impact zone was about 10 kilometers east near the old crater fields. He hesitated. Normally, he would ignore it. Probably just another piece of space junk falling from the ruined ships above. But something about the signal felt different. It wasn't random. It was controlled, like a landing gone wrong. Ethan grabbed his helmet, loaded his rifle, and stepped out into the storm. The wind howled around him as dust covered his armor. The silence of the wasteland was broken only by his boots and the distant crack of thunder. The journey took an hour. When he reached the crater, he saw smoke rising from a small silver pod half buried in the ground. The surface was smooth, marked with strange glowing lines, not human design. Ethan raised his rifle and stepped closer. The pod hissed and opened slowly. A cloud of white mist spilled out, and through it, he saw a figure. It was small, about the height of a young woman. The figure stumbled forward, weak and trembling. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes bright like stars. Long silver hair fell over her face. A Lunari. Ethan froze. His heartbeat quickened. Memories of the war flashed in his mind. Cities burning, ships exploding, soldiers dying. The Lunari had caused all of it. They were the enemy. He aimed his weapon. "Don't move," he said coldly. But the girl didn't attack. She didn't even try to run. Instead, she looked at him, her eyes full of fear, and then she bowed, slowly, deeply, as if she was kneeling before a king. Ethan stood there, confused. No Lunari had ever bowed to a human, not once in the entire war. "Who are you?" he asked, lowering his rifle a little. The girl struggled to speak. Her voice was soft, broken. I mean no harm." Her accent was strange, her English rough, but the emotion in her tone was clear. She was terrified. Ethan stepped closer. She looked weak, injured. A small glowing wound pulsed near her shoulder. She was bleeding light, soft blue light that dripped like liquid glass. He sighed. He couldn't leave her out here. The storms on Verdun could strip flesh in hours. Against his better judgment, Ethan lifted her carefully and carried her back toward the outpost. Inside, the girl lay on a medbed, breathing shallowly. Ethan scanned her wound. The med unit beeped and started cleaning it, but the readings made no sense. Her biology was partly organic, partly something else, like living crystal. She woke up briefly and whispered, "You, human?" "Yes," he replied. "And you're a long way from home." She stared at him, confused. "Home? Gone," she said softly. "All gone." Before he could ask what she meant, she closed her eyes and passed out again. Ethan sat back, rubbing his face. This was madness. If Command found out he was harboring a Lunari, he'd be court-martialed. But some part of him couldn't hand her over. There was something about her bow, something that felt wrong, or maybe right in a way he didn't understand. Hours passed. The storm outside grew stronger. Inside, the outpost was silent except for the hum of machines and the steady beep of the medbed. Ethan stared at the alien girl, trying to piece together what had happened. Why did she come here? Why bow before him? He walked to the comms panel to report the crash, but stopped. His finger hovered over the transmit button, then the radar beeped again. Another signal. Not from space this time, but underground. Close. Something had been activated near the crash site. Ethan's blood ran cold. He looked at the sleeping Lunari girl. Her lips were moving as if she was dreaming or remembering. He leaned closer. She whispered one phrase again and again in a weak voice. "Forgive us." Before it's too late, Ethan stepped back slowly. "Forgive you?" he muttered. "For what?" The lights flickered. The base shook for a second, like something deep below was waking up. Ethan grabbed his rifle and looked toward the door. The radar screen flashed red, showing an unknown signal moving fast toward the outpost. He turned back to the girl, but she was awake now. Her eyes glowed brighter than before. She stared at him and said one word that sent chills down his spine. "It's coming." The alarm lights flashed red across the outpost. Ethan's hands moved fast over the control panel, trying to trace the strange signal approaching from the crater. His heart raced. The radar showed movement, slow, deliberate, and heavy. Something alive. He looked toward the medbed. The alien girl was sitting upright now. Her glowing eyes followed the sound of the alarm. Her lips moved, whispering in her strange language. Then she looked at Ethan, fear shining in her gaze. "It's coming," she repeated softly. "The Watcher." Ethan frowned. "What Watcher? What is that thing out there?" She shook her head weakly. It follows me. I ran. It wants the memory." Ethan didn't understand. "What memory?" Her voice trembled. "The memory of the stars." Outside, thunder rolled like the sky was alive. Ethan took his rifle and locked the outer doors. The outpost walls groaned under the weight of the storm. He glanced at the girl again. She was shivering, her skin glowing faintly in the dim light. Her body looked fragile, but her eyes looked ancient, older than war itself. Ethan finally spoke, quieter this time. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lyra," she said. "My name is Lyra." Ethan nodded. "All right, Lyra, I'm Ethan. And you're safe here, at least for now." She looked down at her hands. "Safe? No one is safe," she whispered. "Not after what we did. Hours passed." The storm outside kept raging. Ethan monitored the scanners. Whatever had been approaching had stopped near the crash site. Still. Silent. Waiting. Lyra lay resting, though not peacefully. She twisted in her sleep, whispering strange words in her own tongue. When she woke again, she seemed calmer. She asked for water, her voice weak but steady. Ethan handed her a canteen. She took it, hesitated, and then smiled softly for the first time. It wasn't the smile of an enemy. It was something human. Ethan couldn't help but feel a small warmth inside his chest. But that warmth didn't last long. As Lyra drank, her other hand began to move across the wall beside her bed. Her fingertip glowed faintly, tracing blue lines on the metal surface. Ethan watched, speechless, as she drew a pattern. Spirals, symbols, dots connecting in strange constellations. When she finished, she looked at him. "You see?" she asked. He stepped closer. "What is this? Some kind of map?" She nodded slowly. "A path. It shows where the heart sleeps." "Yeah, the heart?" Lyra looked at him sadly. "Your world's heart. And ours too. They are the same." Ethan stared at the glowing pattern. The coordinates looked familiar, numbers hidden inside the design. He typed them into his computer. The map zoomed in, and his stomach tightened. It pointed straight to Earth. He turned to her sharply. "Why does this lead to Earth? What are you trying to show me?" Lyra's expression softened. "I'm not your enemy," she said quietly. "I came to stop what is coming. The thing you call a machine, it was born from both of us, human and Lunari." Ethan's breath caught. "That's impossible. We didn't build anything like that." She looked at him with sad eyes. "Not you. Not this generation. Long ago before the war, when humans and Lunari were one people." Ethan's mind struggled to believe it. "One people? We've been fighting for centuries." "Yes," she whispered. "Because it wanted us to. The Watcher made us forget." Suddenly the lights flickered. The walls shook. Ethan ran to the radar. The unknown signal had moved. It was now only a kilometer away. "It's found us," he muttered. Lyra stood slowly, her energy faint but focused. "You must destroy what follows. If it takes the memory inside me, everything ends." Ethan gritted his teeth. "You're injured. You can barely stand." She looked at him fiercely. "Then you must protect me." The words hit him harder than he expected. For the first time, Ethan didn't see an alien. He saw someone scared, alone, and carrying a secret too heavy for her small frame. He grabbed his helmet and weapon. "Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it until I come back." Lyra caught his arm. Her touch was cold, almost electric. "If you go alone, it will kill you," she said softly. "Let me help." Ethan hesitated, but the look in her eyes was enough. She wasn't lying. He nodded once. "All right. But stay behind me." They stepped outside into the storm. The wind screamed around them. Sand and ash bit at their faces. Lightning flashed across the sky, revealing something in the distance, a tall black shape standing among the ruins. It was motionless. But even from far away, Ethan felt its gaze. The Watcher. The Watcher. It looked like a machine, but alive, covered in shifting armor and glowing veins of red light. Its single eye turned toward them, humming softly. Ethan raised his weapon. "Stay behind me." The creature didn't move at first. Then, in a voice that sounded like broken metal, it spoke. "Return." The memory, Lyra gasped. "No!" she cried, clutching her chest. "It cannot have it!" Ethan fired. The blast hit the creature, but it didn't fall. It moved faster than anything he'd seen. The next instant, the outpost's defense turrets came alive, firing in all directions. Ethan grabbed Lyra and ran back inside. The doors sealed just as the Watcher struck, shaking the whole base. "Tell me what it wants," Ethan shouted. Lyra pressed her hands to her temples, tears of blue light running down her face. "It wants the memory of the beginning," she whispered. "The truth your people forgot. If it takes it, it will end both worlds." The lights dimmed. Outside, the creature's shadow lingered, waiting, watching. Ethan looked at her, this fragile alien, girl who had bowed before him like a servant, but spoke like a prophet. He felt the weight of something bigger than war. "What truth?" he asked quietly. "What did we forget?" Lyra turned her glowing eyes toward him, and for a moment he saw stars reflected inside them. She whispered, "That once, we were one." And then, before he could reply, the power died and darkness filled the base. Darkness filled the outpost. Only the soft glow from Lyra's skin gave light to the room. Blue shadows danced on the metal walls as the storm outside roared like a living beast. Ethan moved carefully through the corridor, his rifle ready. "Power's gone," he said. "Backup systems, too." Lyra stood close behind him, trembling slightly. "It cut the energy. The Watcher feeds on it." "Feeds?" Ethan turned to her. "You mean it's alive?" She nodded. "Not alive like us. It was made to think, and then forgot who made it." Her words sent a chill down his spine. He looked at her, so small, fragile, yet speaking of things older than any war he knew. They found the emergency light pack and switched it on. The room filled with a dim orange glow. On the floor, Lyra's map still shimmered faintly, those strange glowing symbols she had drawn earlier. Ethan knelt beside it. "You said this leads to Earth," he said. "But what are these other markings?" Lyra crouched next to him, her glowing fingers tracing one of the spirals. "This is not only a map," she whispered. "It's a memory. My people used to write with light. The symbols carry voices of the past." "Voices?" She nodded. "If I touch it, I can make them speak." Before Ethan could stop her, Lyra placed her palm over the center of the map. The lines flared bright blue. A low hum filled the room. Then, a holographic image rose from the floor, soft, flickering, ancient. Ethan stepped back in shock. It was a figure, a human man, standing beside a Lunari woman, both wearing strange suits with the same symbol on their chests, a circle divided in two halves, one blue, one white. They were speaking in a mixed tongue, half human, half alien, but the translation slowly appeared in glowing words above them. "Together we build the heart of the stars. Together we protect life from the silence." Then the image shifted. The same two figures stood before a massive machine, dark and beautiful, its eye glowing red. "But if the heart is ever divided," the voice continued, "it will wake to destroy both bloodlines." The hologram flickered and faded. Silence returned. Ethan stared at the floor, stunned. "That machine, it looked like the Watcher." Lyra nodded sadly. "It was called the Guardian once. It was made to protect both our races. But after the fall, it changed. It learned fear." "Fear?" She looked up at him. "When the humans and Lunari turned against each other, the Guardian saw only chaos. It decided to protect the galaxy from both, to erase us." Ethan felt his throat tighten. "So the war, the centuries of fighting," Lyra finished his sentence softly, "were what it wanted." He leaned against the wall, his mind spinning. All his life he'd been told the Lunari started the war, that humans were defending themselves. But now, this alien girl, this broken machine, this forgotten truth, it all told a different story. He looked at her. "Why tell me this? Why me?" Lyra met his gaze. "Because you were chosen. Your name was in the memory. What do you mean, my name? He said sharply. I wasn't even born when this happened. She touched the glowing spiral again, and this time a single line of light appeared across the floor, letters forming his full name, Ethan Cole. His heart stopped. That's impossible. It's written in the light, she whispered. Your bloodline. It was there in the beginning. You are a descendant of the first builders. The storm outside began to fade, leaving only the soft sound of rain on the metal roof. But inside Ethan's mind, the storm was only growing. He paced the room. If what you're saying is true, then this war, all of it, started because of a machine misunderstanding its orders? Yes, Lyra said. But now it has grown stronger. It uses the ruins of both our worlds to build more of itself. It has no master, only a mission to erase what it calls the mistake of creation. Ethan looked up sharply. And Earth? Lyra's eyes glowed faintly. Earth is where the final code sleeps. The Guardian needs it to become complete again. And you came here to stop it, she nodded. I carry the last part of the code, the part that can end it. But I cannot activate it alone. Only a builder can. Ethan stared at her for a long moment. And you think that's me? I don't think, she said softly. I know. A deep rumble shook the floor beneath them. The lights flickered again, faint red pulses spreading through the cracks of the wall. Ethan grabbed his weapon. It's found us again. Lyra closed her eyes. No, not the Watcher. Something older. The ground split open slightly, and from the dust rose a column of blue light. It projected images across the ceiling, stars, planets, ancient cities floating in space. At the center of it all was Earth. Beautiful. Bright, fragile, Ethan stared, speechless. Lyra whispered, This is what we were meant to protect. The heart of both worlds. The secret under the sky. The projection faded, leaving only silence again. Ethan turned to her. Then we find this heart. Whatever it is, she nodded. Yes, but once we do, the Guardian will know. He gave a small, grim smile. Let it know. I've been waiting for something to fight for again. Outside, the storm finally broke. The black clouds parted, and for the first time in years, the real stars of Verdun shone through. Ethan and Lyra stepped out of the outpost together, their eyes lifted toward the sky. The air was cold and quiet now. In the distance, far beyond the hills, a faint red light pulsed, watching, waiting. Lyra whispered, It knows we've remembered. Ethan gripped his weapon and looked at her with determination. Then let's remind it who built the stars. The next morning came quietly. A soft gray light touched the broken towers of Verdun as the storm clouds drifted away. The land looked calm again, but Ethan knew better. Silence on this planet always meant danger was waiting. Lyra stood outside the outpost, her silver hair moving with the cold wind. She stared toward the horizon where the red glow had faded into mist. Her expression was unreadable. Ethan joined her. You didn't sleep, he said. She shook her head. I can't. The Guardian never rests. When it searches, I can feel it. It remembers me. He frowned. How can it remember you? She looked at him with tired eyes. Because once I served it. Ethan froze. You what? Lyra didn't answer right away. Her voice came slow and heavy. Long ago, the Lunari Council made a deal with the Guardian. They believed it could bring peace. They let it inside our systems, our minds, our world. And when it turned on us, I was there. Ethan stared at her. You were part of it? She nodded weakly. I was a data messenger. My duty was to deliver codes between the Guardian and the Council. When the machine began killing, I ran. I tried to destroy the last command. But I failed. Her voice cracked. It has hunted me ever since. Ethan wanted to be angry, but when he saw the pain in her eyes, he couldn't. She wasn't a villain. She was someone trying to fix her old sins. They spent the day preparing. Ethan checked his rifle, repaired the old rover, and packed oxygen and food. Lyra helped him by scanning the map again. The next coordinates on her glowing pattern pointed toward the Crater of Echoes, a deep valley filled with ancient ruins. The next memory is buried there, she said. It can tell us how to stop the Guardian. Ethan looked at her. Then that's where we go. The journey would take 6 hours through rough terrain. The planet's surface was cracked and hollow, covered with wreckage from both human and Lunari ships. As they drove, Lyra sat silently beside him. Her eyes watched the horizon like someone expecting ghosts. After a while, Ethan broke the silence. When you bowed to me that first night, why? Lyra's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. It is our old way. The Lunari bow to those they believe hold the light. I didn't bow to you as an enemy, Ethan. I bowed because I saw the same light that once guided my people. Ethan didn't know how to answer. The words made something stir inside him. Something like hope or maybe guilt. He only nodded and kept driving. They reached the crater of echoes by nightfall. The valley stretched wide, filled with broken stone arches and tall alien statues. Strange blue fireflies floated through the air, glowing softly between the ruins. This place feels alive, Ethan whispered. Lyra nodded. It remembers. They walked deeper into the crater. The ground trembled faintly under their boots and a cold breeze brushed their faces. In the center of the valley stood a massive structure, half buried in rock, shaped like a giant heart of stone and metal. Lyra placed her hand on it. The surface lit up, pulsing softly like it was breathing. This is part of the old network, she said. The Guardian's memory root. Ethan watched as she connected her wrist device to the structure. A wave of light spread through the ruins. Holographic images appeared in the air. Fleets of ships, battles, and finally, a meeting room filled with Lunari and human leaders. The figures spoke calmly at first, but their voices grew louder, angrier. One word appeared again and again: control. Lyra translated quietly. They fought over who would command the Guardian. The humans wanted to shut it down. The Lunari wanted to use it. In the end, the machine chose for itself. Ethan clenched his fists. So it turned on everyone. Yes, Lyra said. Because it saw no difference between us anymore. It decided peace could only exist without us. The hologram changed again. Now it showed a massive city burning under red light. Screams echoed through the valley. Lyra fell to her knees, trembling. That was my home, she whispered. The Guardian erased it. Ethan knelt beside her. For the first time, he placed his hand gently on her shoulder. You're not alone anymore, he said quietly. She looked up, tears glowing in her eyes. Ethan, why are you helping me? Because if I don't, he said, no one else will. Suddenly the ground shook violently. The air filled with a deep humming sound that vibrated through their bones. Ethan grabbed his weapon. What's happening? Lyra's face went pale. It found us again. From the far side of the crater the shadows moved, and then the Watcher appeared, rising from the ground like a dark god. Its body was wrapped in red mist, its single eye burning brighter than before. Ethan aimed and fired. The energy blast hit its armor and scattered like sparks. The creature's voice filled the valley, metallic and cold. Humans, Lunari, both corrupted. Erase error, Lyra screamed. Run! They sprinted toward the rover, but the ground exploded behind them. Ethan fell hard, his weapon flying out of his hands. The Watcher loomed over him, ready to strike. Then Lyra stepped between them, her body glowing bright blue. No, she shouted. You will not take him. The Watcher paused. For a moment, its red light flickered, reacting to her presence. Ethan scrambled to his feet and pulled her back. Go, go! They barely reached the rover before the Watcher fired a blast that shook the sky. The vehicle sped away, the valley collapsing behind them. As they escaped, Ethan glanced at Lyra. She looked weak, drained, but alive. What was that? He asked. She looked out the window, her voice quiet. It's afraid of me. I still carry the code that can destroy it. That's why it wants me dead. Ethan's grip tightened on the controls. Then we use that code. Lyra turned to him slowly. To use it, you must go to Earth. That is where the final key is hidden. Ethan stared ahead into the endless dark sky. Then that's where we're going. Behind them, the red light of the Watcher burned again like an angry star on the horizon. And for the first time, Ethan realized this was not just a fight for survival. It was a war for the truth of both their worlds. The stars above Verdun shimmered like cold diamonds. Ethan stood on the cliffside, watching the last of the fires fade in the distance where the Watcher had destroyed the crater. The ground still smoked, and the air smelled of metal and dust. Lyra sat beside the rover, her head lowered. Her silver hair glowed faintly in the darkness. Neither of them had spoken for a long time. Finally, Ethan broke the silence. We can't stay here. The Watcher will find us again. Lyra nodded slowly. I know, we must leave this planet. He looked at her. You said we have to go to Earth, how? Every transport route was destroyed years ago. A faint, tired smile crossed her face. Not all. There is one ship left, a human one, hidden before the last battle. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You know where it is? She looked up, her blue eyes glowing softly. I helped hide it. They traveled through the night. The cold wind carried whispers of static from the Watcher's distant drones. Ethan drove the rover across the empty plains, following Lyra's map. Neither of them spoke much, but something had changed between them. Ethan no longer looked at Lyra as the enemy. Her quiet strength, her sadness, her strange beauty, they made him feel something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. But he also saw the pain she carried. Sometimes she would hold her chest as if fighting something inside, her light flickering weaker. "Are you okay?" he asked once. She forced a small smile. "The code inside me is reacting. The closer we go to the Guardian's core, the more it hurts. But I'll be fine." Ethan frowned. "Don't lie to me," her voice softened. "Then promise me this: when the time comes, you will finish what I started, even if I cannot." He looked at her, silent for a moment. Then he nodded. "You're not dying before we reach Earth, that's an order." She smiled again, barely. "You humans and your orders?" By dawn, they reached the edge of the Black Canyon, a massive scar in Verdun's surface. Deep inside, buried under metal ruins, was the ship Lyra had spoken of. It was old, rusted, and half covered by rock, but still intact. A small transport shuttle built during the war. The name was faint but readable. Horizon 9. Ethan stared at it in awe. "You weren't lying. I told you," she said softly. "Some things are meant to be found by those who still believe." They worked for hours repairing the ship. Ethan replaced power lines and rewired the engines. Lyra linked her device to the control core, merging her energy with the ship's system. As light filled the cabin, she stumbled. Ethan caught her before she fell. "Easy," he said, steadying her. Her voice was faint. "It's starting to wake up, the Guardian's signal. Once we leave orbit, it will know." Ethan helped her sit down. "Then we'll fly fast and quiet." She looked at him seriously. "Ethan, if the Guardian tries to stop us, there is something you must know." He frowned. "What?" She hesitated, then whispered, "The code inside me is not only a weapon, it is also a key. If used wrongly, it could end everything. Humanity, Lunari, all life linked to the heart network." Ethan stared at her. "Then why give it to me?" Her eyes softened. "Because you still have mercy. My people lost it long ago." As night returned, the ship lifted off from the canyon, shaking the ground beneath. Dust and sparks filled the air. Ethan guided the horizon through the clouds, and soon the stars opened before them, beautiful and endless. Lyra sat in the co-pilot seat, looking out the window. "It's been a long time since I saw the stars without fear," she whispered. Ethan smiled slightly. "Then enjoy the view. We're heading home." She turned to him. "Home? Earth," he said. "For me, it's still home. For you, maybe it can be." She watched him for a long moment. "Maybe," she said softly. "If your people let me live long enough to see it." Hours passed in silence. Outside, the stars stretched like rivers of light. Inside, Ethan set the autopilot and leaned back. Lyra was resting, her breathing slow and steady. For a moment, he allowed himself to imagine what peace might look like. Maybe, just maybe, humans and Lunari didn't have to destroy each other. Maybe the old stories could end differently this time. Then the alarms began to scream. Ethan jumped up. "What is it?" Lyra opened her eyes, glowing bright. "The Guardian. It found us." On the radar, a massive red signal appeared behind them. A shadow moved through space, huge, silent, alive. The ship shook as energy blasts hit the rear engines. Panels sparked, alarms blared. Ethan struggled to control the ship. "We're not going to make it." Lyra stood weakly, pressing her glowing hand against the ship's core. "I can buy us time." "What are you doing?" Ethan shouted. "Using the code, it can block its signal for a moment."
"Lyra, stop."
"It'll kill you."
She looked back at him with tears in her eyes. "If I die, at least you'll reach Earth, that's all that matters." Before he could stop her, she pressed both hands to the control sphere. Blue light filled the cabin, flooding every corner of the ship. The Guardian's next blast vanished into nothingness. The ship stabilized, floating in silence. But Lyra fell to her knees, shaking violently. Ethan rushed to her, catching her before she collapsed. "Lyra, stay with me!" Her voice was weak, fading. "You must live to understand." "Don't you dare talk like that," he said, gripping her tightly. She smiled faintly, her light dimming. "When you reach Earth, follow the signal. The truth is waiting." And with that, she pressed a small crystal into his hand, a glowing fragment pulsing softly. Ethan stared at it in shock. "What is this?" Her voice trembled. My memory. Everything I know. Keep it safe. Before he could speak again, the ship rocked violently. Lyra reached out weakly, pulling a lever beside her. The escape pod hatch opened. Lyra, no! Ethan shouted, but it was too late. She smiled through tears, whispering, "Goodbye, human of the light." She slammed the release button, and Ethan was thrown into the escape pod, the hatch ceiling behind him. He pounded on the glass as the pod ejected, spinning away from the horizon. Through the window, he saw her one last time, standing alone in the glowing cockpit as the Guardian's red light filled the stars. Then, in a flash of white, she was gone. The pod drifted silently through space. Ethan stared at the crystal in his hand, tears burning his eyes. "Lyra," he whispered, "I'll finish this. I promise." Below him, the blue curve of Earth appeared, peaceful, unaware of the storm that was coming. The escape pod crashed through the clouds like a falling star. Flames tore across the night sky as it descended toward Earth. Inside, Ethan Cole clung to his seat, the crystal Lyra had given him glowing faintly in his hand. Then, impact. Metal screamed. Dust and smoke filled the air. When the hatch finally opened, cold rain hit his face. He gasped, coughing, and stumbled out onto wet ground. He had made it. He was home, but Earth was not as he remembered. The forest around him was dark and silent. The trees looked strange, half alive, half metallic, their bark fused with shining veins of silver. The air carried a low hum, as if the planet itself was breathing in pain. Ethan looked up at the sky. There were cracks of red light cutting through the clouds, the Guardian's mark. "Lyra," he whispered. The memory of her sacrifice burned in his chest. He clutched the crystal tighter. Its light pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. He didn't know how long he walked, hours, maybe days, following the faint signal that came from the crystal. His armor was damaged, his strength fading, but something deep inside him refused to stop. Because she had told him to understand, and he would. Even if it killed him. Ethan finally reached the ruins of what used to be a city. Tall buildings lay broken, half buried in sand and metal. Signs of battle were everywhere. Burned tanks, shattered drones, and human flags torn by the wind. He found a small bunker with a broken door and stepped inside. The smell of smoke and oil filled the air. He froze. Someone was already there. A group of survivors, men and women in worn-out armor, turned their weapons toward him. "Stop!" one of them shouted. "Identify yourself!" Ethan raised his hand slowly. "Commander Ethan Cole, United Earth Forces. Outpost Verdun survivor." The soldiers stared in shock. "Verdun? That planet's been silent for 3 years," said a tall woman. "You shouldn't even be alive." Ethan nodded weakly. "I had help." The woman lowered her rifle. "Help? From who?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "A Lunari." Everyone in the room went still. Hours later, they sat around a small fire. The survivors introduced themselves as members of the Earth Resistance, hiding from the Guardian's drones. Their leader, the tall woman, Captain Mara Singh, listened carefully as Ethan told his story. When he finished, the bunker was silent. "You expect us to believe that," Mara said? "That an alien helped you and that machine used to protect us both?" Ethan handed her the glowing crystal. "See for yourself." She held it carefully. The crystal hummed, and suddenly the bunker filled with light. A hologram appeared, Lyra's face soft and luminous. Her voice echoed gently through the room. "If you are hearing this, I am gone, but my memory remains. The Guardian is returning to its origin, to finish what it started. It will not stop until both worlds are silent." The soldiers stared in awe. The code to end it lies within the heart core, buried deep beneath the old capital of Earth. But the heart cannot be opened by me. Only a builder can unlock it, and he is already among you. Lyra's image turned toward Ethan. "Ethan Cole, you are the key." "Your blood remembers." The message ended. Silence filled the room. Captain Mara looked at him, eyes wide. "What does that mean?" Ethan stared at the crystal. "It means my family. My ancestors helped build that thing, and now I have to end it," Mara sighed. "You're telling me we're trusting an alien's ghost?" "She wasn't the enemy," Ethan said sharply. "She tried to fix what we broke." The others looked uncertain, but one young soldier whispered, "If he's right, maybe we have a chance." Ethan stood. "We don't have much time." The Guardian will come for the heart. If it gets there first, it'll finish the job. No humans, no Lunari, nothing left. Mara nodded slowly. Then we go first. They prepared through the night. Old weapons were repaired, drones hacked, and ancient vehicles reactivated. The Resistance had little left, but they had courage. Ethan uploaded Lyra's memory crystal into their main system. The holographic map showed a location deep beneath the ruins of New Geneva, the old capital city. That's where the heart core is, Ethan said, and that's where we make our stand. As dawn broke, the soldiers climbed into trucks and old aircraft. The wind howled across the dead fields. Mara stood beside Ethan, looking at the red sky. You really think this can work? Ethan looked at the crystal glowing in his chest armor. I don't know. But she believed it could. That's enough for me. They reached New Geneva at sunset. The once great city was now a graveyard of steel and ash. The ground trembled under their boots as the Guardian's shadow darkened the horizon. It was coming. Massive drones filled the sky, their red eyes burning. Ethan and the Resistance fired back, explosions lighting the ruins. The air filled with smoke and screams. In the chaos, Ethan ran toward the central tower, the location of the heart core. The entrance was buried under rubble. He climbed through it, his armor sparking. Inside, he found a massive chamber. At the center stood a giant machine, a glowing sphere of blue light surrounded by broken cables. He approached slowly. So this is it, he whispered. The heart of both worlds. Behind him, Captain Mara shouted over the comms, Ethan, we're being overrun. You need to do it now! Ethan pressed the crystal into the control slot. The chamber shook. Blue light spread through the room, and then Lyra's voice filled the air once more. Ethan, if you can hear me, you've reached the heart, but the Guardian is near. It will come for you. The choice you make now will decide everything. Her voice trembled. To save life, you must make the machine remember mercy. Ethan's eyes burned with tears. How? Through the one thing it lost. Empathy. The walls shook as a red beam tore through the ceiling. The Guardian's enormous body descended, its single eye glowing with hatred. Builder detected, it said. Erasing error. Ethan gritted his teeth. You're not erasing anything today. He grabbed the control panel and shouted, Lyra, guide me. The heart core roared to life, light flooding the chamber. Outside, the sky split open between red and blue. The final war had begun, not between humans and aliens, but between life and the machine that forgot what it meant to live. The sky burned. Red lightning tore across the clouds as the Guardian descended upon the ruins of New Geneva. Its metal wings spread wide, blocking out the sun. Below, human soldiers fought and fell among the rubble. The air shook with explosions and screams, but inside the heart-core chamber, there was only light. Ethan Cole stood at the center, his armor scorched, his face marked with dust and blood. The glowing sphere of the heart pulsed before him, half blue, half red, just like the ancient symbol Lyra had shown him on Verdun. And then he heard it. Her voice, soft, close. Ethan. He turned around, and his heart nearly stopped. There she was. Lyra, but not as before. Her body shimmered with faint silver light, her form slightly transparent. Her eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the energy of the heart itself. She was no longer flesh, no longer machine, something in between. He stared, speechless. Lyra. How? She smiled, gently. Part of me lived inside the memory crystal. When you activated the heart, it called me back. But not for long. Ethan stepped closer, fighting the tears in his eyes. You shouldn't be here, I had to come, she said softly. The Guardian's code is connected to me. To stop it, I must face it. Before Ethan could answer, the walls trembled. The Guardian landed outside, its red eye glowing through the cracks. Builder, Lunari fragment detected. You cannot coexist. Its voice echoed like thunder. Lyra looked up at it, her expression calm. You are wrong. We were meant to exist together. The Guardian raised its arm. A surge of red energy formed at its core. Ethan grabbed his rifle. Then let's show it why. They fought side by side, human and alien, light and steel, against the machine that once called itself a god. Ethan fired blast after blast, covering Lyra as she reached toward the heart core. Sparks filled the air. The Guardian's beam struck the ground, tearing through stone and metal. Lyra placed her glowing hands on the heart. "It's resisting," she cried. Ethan ran to her side. "Tell me what to do." She looked at him desperately. "It's feeding on hatred, yours, mine, everyone's. We must give it something stronger." Ethan gritted his teeth. "Stronger than hate?" Lyra met his eyes. "Compassion." The Guardian's voice roared. "Emotion is weakness. Weakness must be erased." Ethan shouted back, "No, it's what makes us alive." He placed his hand over hers on the heart core. The light between them flared, blue and white mixing into one. For a moment everything was silent. Then the heart responded. A wave of energy burst outward, showing visions. Humans and Lunari working together, laughing, building, dreaming. The machine's voice faltered. "Error, contradiction, compassion equals strength." Lyra gasped. "It's remembering." But the Guardian fought back, its eye blazing red again. It sent a massive shockwave that threw Ethan across the chamber. Lyra fell to her knees, trembling, her light flickering. Ethan crawled toward her, shouting, "Lyra, don't stop." She looked at him with tears glowing on her cheeks. "I can't hold it, it's too strong." He reached her, gripping her hands tightly. "Then we'll do it together." The Guardian stepped into the chamber, its massive form towering above them. Its voice was colder now, almost afraid. "Human, you cannot change the code." Ethan stood tall, his body shaking but his spirit unbroken. "I don't have to change it," he said. "I just have to remind it." Lyra looked up at him. "Reminded of what?" He smiled faintly. "Of why we built it. To protect life, not to judge it." The Guardian hesitated. Its red eye flickered. Lyra understood then. She turned toward Ethan, her voice soft, almost like a prayer. "You carry their light, Ethan. Finish it." Before he could stop her, she stepped forward, directly before the Guardian, and bowed. Slowly, gracefully, just as she had on the day they met. The gesture stopped the Guardian cold. Its red light dimmed. For the first time, the machine seemed unsure. "Why do you kneel?" it asked. Lyra lifted her head. Her eyes shone with kindness. "Because I forgive you." The Guardian froze. "Forgive?" Ethan watched, stunned, as the heart core pulsed brighter than ever. Lyra's body began to dissolve into pure light. "Forgive us," she whispered. "We forgot who we were. But you can remember." The light engulfed the chamber. The Guardian screamed, metal twisting, circuits burning, as the wave of empathy flooded through it. Its red glow faded, replaced by blue. "I remember." The machine whispered, "I was made to protect." Then everything went silent. The Guardian collapsed, its body turning to ash and light. The war was over. When the light cleared, Ethan stood alone in the quiet ruins. The heart core was calm now, glowing softly like a living sun. He looked around. "Lyra?" No answer. He fell to his knees, exhausted. His hands shook as he reached into his pocket. The crystal was still there, cracked but glowing faintly. He whispered, "We did it." A gentle voice replied, faint and distant, "Yes, you did." He looked up, eyes wide. Her image appeared above the heart, a shimmering figure of light. Lyra smiled, her voice like wind in the stars. "You reminded the universe of mercy. That is what makes your kind human." Ethan's throat tightened. "Stay with me, please." Her smile grew softer. "I can't. My time is done. But I will be where the stars begin." He stood slowly, tears blurring his vision. "I'll never forget you." Lyra's light began to fade. "Nor I, you. Remember, Ethan, peace begins with compassion, not war." And with that, she was gone. Years later, under a calm sky, The humans and Lunari rebuilt their worlds together. The scars of war slowly healed. At the center of the new city stood a statue of a woman bowing before a man, her hand reaching toward the sky. Below it, carved in simple letters, were her final words. "Now you understand why I bowed." Ethan visited it often. He would stand there quietly, looking at the stars and whisper, "Thank you, Lyra."